there are maybe 40 projects that have marked yes, I'm attending, and you'll see the names of the people are listed on this slide as well. So your tasks, if you are looking for a teammate, are respond to any of these people on Slack. Reach out to Greg if you're interested in his idea. Reach out to Shrims, reach out to Maxwell, reach out to Michelle, Marissa. All of these are people that by opting into WanderWeek, a part of what they're saying is that they're open to maybe some voices there. So that's your first step. And I'm glad to see people are getting in there and doing it now. The second step is the one that really will take the majority of this week, which is the identification of the artifact that you want to spend your time on and the creation of said artifact. So I'm going to the main WanderWeek Notion page, which should be able to like respond to a lot of your FAQ type questions. It has a lot more detail than even the slide deck if you ever are lost, and we'd like you to use it well. The section that I'm looking for, Sachin, is these examples. Where would I find those again?
Submission criteria, if you toggle that open.
Yep. So submission criteria is to submit one of these artifacts. And we've used this word really intentionally. I wish that, you know, the wording in front of you might have shown that, but I'd like to just emphasize that like this artifact, more than anything, should be meaningful to you. It's an artifact that can showcase to yourself a bit of your progress on this idea. It's something that you hopefully could end this week feeling proud of. And it's really meant for you to determine what that artifact might be, more so than us. And again, that meaning, starting internal and moving external, we find to be very important. That being said, we have some examples of artifacts from past that, you know, to be fair, these people did this over the course of the 8 weeks of Kernel. So you're seeing prototypes that might have been created over the course of weeks. But you have a slide deck from Coinocracy, which is a decentralized investment protocol from KB4. Crew64 is kind of a music-focused creator tool. And they created a Figma mood board and prototype. Then you had Tatva Finance, which is a DeFi risk analysis protocol that created a demo website on Webflow. And I'm not going to click into any of them right now, but they're there as examples and perhaps as inspiration as you explore what your artifact might look like. So again, here's a slide that gets you a link directly to it. We'll make sure that you have access to this deck. And then the last slide for me really to spend a lot of time on is the schedule. So you all are here, you're at the first event. This is the kickoff. We're going to start with WanderWeek kickoff and mindful prototyping with Andrej, who's going to be with us for the 45 minutes following me rambling. There is, right after this kickoff, we're going to open up the Gather Town, and we're also going to have the first guild session. Okay, so this is an important note. It's not really visible on this slide, but this call goes for an hour. If you're looking after the hour to just kind of hang out, see who else is around, and talk to them, I would recommend going into the Gather for a little bit if you have some free time. We'll try to wrap maybe 5 minutes early so that we can get in there and not take extra time on your calendar, but Gather time will be available for people who want to hang out. So that's the first session. There's a team building session that's coming up that we're doing in an APAC friendly time zone because most of these events are not APAC friendly. So there's team building coming up. That'll be tomorrow. And it should work for most people around the world, but it'll be more focused on APAC people. And then we have 3 guilds that go on and kick off this week. So the first one is the Gaming Guild, which actually kicks off right after this. So if you're not entering the Gather Town, you might be entering the Gaming Guild, which is the first of the guilds. Austin Griffith is a hacker in the Ethereum space who is a specialist in rapid prototyping. So what I want to call out is that even if you're not on the Gaming Guild, but you are attempting to build kind of like a working prototype over the course of the next 5 to 7 days, it might be in your interest to go to that gaming guild session right after this, even if you're not on that gaming guild, because Austin will frame that call knowing that the build week, WanderWeek is happening, and he will be sharing a bit more on Scaffold ETH, which is kind of like a Ruby on Rails for Ethereum. So those are happening first. You got your guilds, and you have a team building session. We're gonna ask that you post in WanderWeek with a lot of things. I'll go back to this last slide because I didn't say that. But once you've made your RSVP, optionally making a post in WanderWeek could be a great way to just like tell people, hey, this is my adventure. This is what I'm looking for. It might be a slight step up from just putting it in Notion. But what we would also like feedback on in WanderWeek is, do you want another team building session? Are you finding enough space to kind of interact with each other? How are you feeling generally as we go through the week? So we hope that you use that Kernel WanderWeek channel. And we explicitly want feedback on whether we want another team building session if that time slot doesn't work. So that'll be on the calendar soon. And then we have the guilds. The 3 guilds, as mentioned, we have the Gaming Guild, we have Token Communities, and then we have DAOs and Dragons. Token Communities, we have Michael Keating and Ruben from IDEO. DAOs and Dragons, we have Kia from Gnosis and Isaac, who has created the Moloch DAO V3 smart contracts. And they're all aware that WanderWeek is happening now, and that some people who are coming to these sessions are exploring ideas, exploring adventures. And each of the sessions is built with 20 to 25 minutes of content for them to present, and 20 to 25 minutes in Gather Town or otherwise to kind of engage with both the guild leaders and participants who are also in those sessions who might be good collaborators. So those are some of the sessions, and that brings us to Friday office hours. So this week's office hour slot is really primarily focused on you all. If other people come to office hours who are not at WanderWeek, that'll be fine, but we will definitely be focused on idea validation. So the stretch goal to keep in mind would be, if you have an adventure page and some type of prototype or provisional artifact that you would like to share, the mentors that attend office hours on Friday are there for you. And we're hoping that it will be a slightly more less chaotic office hours than the last one, given that people are starting to get used to Gather Town, and the tables we hope to get the mentors at a little earlier. But to maximize the session, a prototype or something to share would be what we ask of you. And if you've gotten a chance to kind of like share it with some other people before office hours, all the better. Maybe WanderWeek can be a place where we do some of those explorations in the meantime. I think that kind of brings us towards the end. We'll have 3 checkpoints on the weekend, which is ETH Denver weekend. I'll be at Denver, Kia Krutler, and a lot of the other mentors are in Denver. So we'll be around for the weekend as is. And we don't want to force any of these checkpoints on anyone. The weekend time is, of course, optional, but we'll be around, and we'll do 3 checkpoints in Gather Town for people to share their progress and hang out in Gather Town. So Gather is obviously open to you 24/7, but the hope with setting 3 explicit times is that you'll know that if you want to, take a quick hour, that'll be the time instead of just like being there all the time. And yes, that brings us to the end. The end will be next Tuesday, February 22nd, right at this time, if I'm not mistaken. It might be an hour before this time. We'll select 12 projects to present their pitch based on the the submissions that are made by Sunday. And then for all teams, no matter if you're selected, no matter if you get anywhere or get a far away, Expo Week is still here. And that's March 8th. That's a while from now. And really, this is intended to be kind of like a fun dry run for Expo Week, which will be a slightly more public version of what we're doing here. And then Showcase will be an even more public version of what we're doing here. So it's still very much the beginning. Please do not feel rushed. Just feel like you have energy to tap into if you so please. So again, RSVP for WanderWeek, you've done that. Make a kernel adventure if you haven't by the 17th. Make sure you tag it as you're interested and make a post in the WanderWeek channel if you haven't yet. And then your goal is to create an artifact that's meaningful to you by Sunday, February 20th. We will be putting more about submission details soon. That's all I got. Sachin, any questions I didn't answer in the chat that you can crank through before we introduce Andrej?
All good. All caught up.
All caught up. Wonderful. Anyone want to unmute for a quick question or two before we introduce Andrej? Where a link to the slideshow, no problem. I'll put a link in the chat and then maybe Sachin can make sure it's viewable. It might take a second.
Yeah, it's viewable. Yeah.
Great. And we have Andrej here. Andrej.
Yeah, sorry, my mic was off. There we go.
Man, I love seeing Andrej. Every time we do a kernel block, Andrej has been with us since Genesis block. And this particular session on prototyping has been a speciality. What we would ask you to do now is maybe take a deep breath. And Andrej, I'm actually gonna, before getting into your session, play some music for a minute just to give people a chance to decompress. We have titled this particular session Mindful Prototyping, which is something that Andrej has brought into our lives by the way that he moves through these boards. And our hope is that this session starts to give you some space for your artifacts and starts to give you some space for what that might look like. So I'm going to play music for a second. We'll have Andrej's face on the screen and we will start in just a minute. All right, Andrej, please take it away. Andrej is the founder of DeepWorks Studio. He has led this session for 5 blocks in a row, and I honestly will let his work and his craft speak for itself. Andrej, we're really grateful to have you with us.
Awesome. Thank you so much. And it's always a pleasure to be here. It's super fun. And I'm actually also very excited for now. I hope you had a great break. And also, well, welcome to Kernel, which is an awesome program. It's a few people I already recognize. Nice to see you and nice to see you again. This session now will basically introduce you into creating something with your team and creating an artifact, not being like afraid, but actually being a lot like as confident as you can be about creating something together that has value and then pretty much exactly know what you want to work on. And it's also super fun. So basically, so I'm just going to share a Miro board with you, and I hope it's not going to blow up. If you have never used Miro, feel free to like play around with it and like maybe leave some post-its. But this is what we'll be working through today. That said, I'm not going to go through the entire thing that you can see here. If you, oh yeah, cool, you're already joining. Actually, does it work? Is it on edit mode? Yeah. If you have any challenges, oh yeah, cool, there we go. Oh, nice. Yeah, sorry. Yeah, so this session is going to focus on basically brainstorming some challenges you want to work on, coming up with solutions very, very quickly, and then figuring out how to prioritize these solutions within a team. I use this for pretty much any creative collaboration, and it's going to give you a really good head start on, first of all, understanding what your team thinks is important and valuable at the beginning and what should be prioritized. And then also give you the freedom to come up with a lot of different ideas that you might not discuss in that speed in the same way. And based on that, you'll be able to kind of create an experiment or run a prototype. So the result of these things will always be something that you can tangibly put into practice and then potentially user test, which we're going to talk about like next time or maybe after this workshop. So I would recommend kind of going through all of this to keep in mind that you can do this within your internal team. Now we have about 69 people on the Miro board, and it's quite a lot. So let's just imagine we're all like one big massive team, and we're working on kind of the same, I guess, common purpose. And so maybe like as a topic, rather than kind of being very specific about, you know, your product or idea, let's just assume that we want to gather all the challenges that you can think of in the Web3 space at the moment and work on those. So what we'll do is we'll gather a lot of these problems, figure out what are the most important ones for every one of us, vote on them, and then solve them or come up with interesting solutions. And again, like try to keep in mind to use this same structure that you can use this same structure within your team on a very, very specific problem that you're solving. So I'm going to mention that later again, but something like a retrospective is a very good example for this exercise. So let me just maybe clear up the first canvas. Really appreciate the enthusiasm and then playing around. We'll use the very first canvas to basically come up with as many problems as possible. So any challenges that you can see in the Web3 space, that's what we want to focus on for like the next 5 minutes or so. So as I'll have to see if I can actually share music as well. So let me just clean this up a little bit. I'm going to remove the post-its that are here at the moment, or just move them away. I really appreciate them. So maybe except for one. There we go. So over the next 5 minutes, and I'll set a timer for 5 minutes. Time capping is also kind of important. Otherwise, people normally take as much as they can be, or they want to take. So for the next 5 minutes, try to write as many challenges that you can think of in the Web3 space into this very first canvas, and use the blank canvas, blank post-its, or create your own ones. But try to kind of come up with as many things that you can think of that you have encountered. It can also just like tangentially touch Web3. So if you think of something that's like very just important for society, that can also be interesting. Another like kind of small hint or like a piece of advice is, if you want to make these questions and challenges more tangible and more solvable, reframe them into a question. And like there's a format that's been developed by IDEO, or actually Procter & Gamble, which says, how might we? So you basically, rather than creating like saying, hey, this is the problem, we should work on this, you basically write it as a solvable challenge statement, starting with how might we, and you can shorten that down into HMW, but you basically want to write something like, how might we improve trust in the Web3 space? So, or how might we, let me actually see this. There's like a bunch of cool examples from last time. How might we improve like meritocratic governance in Web3 or not in Web3? So things like these. Let me show you a board from last time. I'm just going to share that real quick. This was the workshop last time. So you can see here these challenges are something like how might we onboard more data scientists into Web3, or how might we make blockchain more intuitive and understand and easy to understand. So basically anything that you can think of, and then as you can see on these dots, when we're finished, we'll do a round of voting and then see which of those actually seem to be the most interesting ones. Okay, so enough talking. You're already finished. You can also go outside of the boundaries of this canvas. Just try to not go into the next canvas because we'll need that still. I'm going to set a timer on 5 minutes and play some music. Or what's easier, Vivek? Do you want to play some music?
Me too. I'm happy to. I'll just keep
Awesome.
it rolling.
Cool. Also, if you have any questions, feel free to write them into the chat. Nice. Yeah, technically you can also group them together, but just for the sake of time here, we don't have to do that. If you would do that in your team, I would suggest taking like 5 to 10 minutes to write them, and then taking another like 2 to 3 minutes to group them so you have a better overview, or even like create categories. I have a solution for that one. Cool. I'm thinking maybe we can even shorten down the time. I think this is already way too much. It's not too much. It's just with 100 people, it's different than if you do it with 5 people, in terms of the amount of ideas. So yeah, let me just stop the timer here. That was amazing. Also, thanks so much for the music, Vivek. Very cool jams. So let's look at the how might we's. By the way, the reason why it's how might we is because it sounds relatively soft with no obligations and like no promises to find a solution. So it's also fine to not come up with a solution, but it's like a soft enough question and statement that turns out to give people a lot more freedom to come up with something that can work. So now that you've done that, let's look at how to prioritize them. So when you prioritize, this is kind of a little of like kind of a governance mechanism that's internal for your team. When you do these workshops, you obviously always have the freedom to choose who you want to include and who you want to like exclude from them. And consider also here thinking about who should take part in these decisions and who doesn't. So depending on the context that you're setting, if you're like just starting out with a project and you want to involve a bunch of people and like your friends and you want to work on something cool, you think it's cool, then this is basically like a good exercise to align everybody on the same kind of ideas and trains of thought. And do you actually see like the same problems? Do you agree with the diversity of solutions and so on? So now let me take a 3-minute time, not break, but a timer, and set a timer for 3 minutes. And for the next 3 minutes, you have the chance to vote on whatever you like. So you have all these like purple or like pink dots on the very top. Thanks so much for duplicating them. I don't think you'll need to duplicate all of them, just because if you can also just duplicate one. So feel free to take as many dots as you like and place them for the next 3 minutes on the things that you think are interesting. So just basically kind of let's create together a heat map of the ideas that seem to be most interesting. So this is technically where also categorizing makes sense because it makes it easier to scan everything. But just for the sake of time, we can definitely skip that here. So for the next 3 minutes, just have a look through what you can see and vote on the things that seem interesting for you to work on and seem to kind of resonate with your desires of solving these problems. Or maybe you have some ideas already how to solve them. So you can think about it as a mix of like what you're interested in working on and what you think may be already a solution for, or maybe you already have some solutions for it. Or you maybe think that there's no solutions for that, but it's still very, very important to work on it. So yeah, 3 minutes. How do I add the dots? Oh, so you can basically copy paste the ones. So you copy it. It's on the very top, right above the canvas, a lot of the pink dots, but you can also just take any dot you like that you can see, and you click on it, and then you press Control or Command and C, and then Control and Command and V, and then it will paste it to exactly where your cursor is. You can also take them and move them around. There is a voting tool in Miro as well, integrated, but that doesn't really work that well for these kinds of things because it doesn't show the votes properly at the end. So yeah, feel free to go crazy, vote on whatever you want, and then I'll see you in 2 minutes.
Make the flight when you're by yourself and there's no one else. You just have yourself and you tell yourself just to hold on. Cookie.
Last minute.
See the light. Oh, and when you're warm, really warm, well, you get things done like they've never been done. So hold
I can probably stop the timer. The music is always a great cue. All right, there we go. Cool. Thanks so much. This is awesome. So now you can see already that there's really like a great heat map of the ideas and challenges that everybody thinks are interesting. And what I find always kind of exciting about this is that we haven't had a conversation, but we now all agree on something that is very important and valuable for all of us. Obviously, there's nuances and conversations will emerge from these exercises, but I think it's a very fast way to basically replicate what you would do one-on-one with your friend, but on a larger scale in the same amount of time. So now you can see these a few things have popped up with quite a high amount of votes. We'll take a few of them in a second. Basically, if you want to categorize them, whoever like created these titles, that's the perfect way and perfect approach. So you just write out a couple of like titles and then cluster the content beneath those. So yeah, so with these titles, it gives everybody a very quick glance on what's hidden beneath it, or like what's kind of categorized below them. Another thing worth mentioning here is that if you read the instructions on the left-hand side, it says get 4 votes. In a closer or like in a smaller setting, you would limit the amount of votes just so everybody has the same weight and the same kind of amount of contributions, unless you want to play around with that. But in the beginning, I recommend just keeping it like equal and limiting the amount of people that you include in the workshop itself. But I would say generally you would want to limit people to like about 4 to 5 votes if you have a team of like 5 to 10 people or so, or like actually yeah, it's between like 3 and 10 people. You would have about 4 to 5 votes each, and you'll see that creates a similar dynamic. If you end up having very similar votes on some post-its, like you count them later, you can basically say, okay, let's do another round and like vote again to refine that a bit, or just go with whatever has the highest votes. So, or whatever is like preferable. So you don't have to wait around for too long.
And
So,
Andrej, would you,
yeah.
I know that it's for groups, but also if you could touch on how this would be used as an individual, just if I was going through this. I know voting is a big part of it, but have you done that before? Any thoughts on that?
All right. Well, in general, I mean, this whole process that we're going through is almost like an individual creative process. So whenever you make a decision, that's exactly what you would do anyway. So when you want to make any of your decisions, and this is more like kind of a facilitator or like workshop facilitator thing, if you have a structure for how you want to solve a particular problem, try to dissect your own creative process of solving that problem on an individual basis. And then you can use these workshops to basically replicate that in a team. So for example, what I'm currently doing with a friend of mine is that he's like interested in engineering, like basically creating a way to design a token mechanism. And so what we're doing is we're taking like a bunch of different tokens, and he's writing out his personal approach, like how would I design a token step by step? Like let's see what the business model is. Let's see what the microeconomics are. Let's see what the social and like psychological incentive mechanisms are, and so on, and create like, and this is his personal process, but then he takes these canvases and basically makes that collaborative and inclusive for other people. So, I mean, I think this is just more of an advanced step, but if you are interested in trying these workshops and you're not exactly sure whether it's going to work with your team, just do it on your own first and just go through that process yourself. Like write out a couple of things, vote on them yourself, and you'll see how that feels. And that will be the same way how it will feel for other people. I don't have that canvas right now handy. I'd have to ask him, but send me a message on Slack and I'll send it to you. So okay, let's see where we are. So let's look at the highest votes. I'm just going to grab a few of them. Obviously, in a realistic scenario, we would just take those that have the highest votes and would probably count them. So I think this is one that's interesting. How might we make sure that Web3 is inclusive? I'm just going to move it to the next canvas. I think there was another one. Create authentic, soulful connections. Someone voted with a lot of dots, but I think that's still pretty nice. What else do we have? How might we generate hyperlocal actions, incentives for local communities. That's quite an interesting one. There we go. And let's see what else there is. Good morning, Valerie. Okay, cool. Good morning from Valerie. How might we, and how to ensure and build educational model which gives and rewards forever. Okay, so these are great. I think these are very like specific as well, which is nice. At this stage, you could have challenges and questions that are relatively vague, but also some that will be specific. Both are fine, and they will offer different ways to interpret them and come up with solutions. So let's jump to the next stage, which is the actual solution part. So I'm going to take these 4 and place them on the next canvas. And what we want to do is basically spend another, like, let's say 3 minutes and just come up with anything that you can think of that could be going towards solving any one of those questions. So anything, or how might we, anything you can think of that maybe already exists from a different industry. Maybe you are just like realizing, hey, there are some models that I'm aware of, or something you've seen in Web3 that kind of goes in that direction. So let me just make these yellow, and let's use let's use the dark yellow post-its for the solution. So you always want to like give it a different color. I normally use blue, but it doesn't matter. It's just important that you take a different color so you can separate those out from so the questions from the solutions. I'll also move a few others over as you're writing, but so for the next 3 minutes or so, try to think about like what could be some ways to create authentic soulful connections in your environment, whether it's Web3 or just generally working in internet native organizations and communities. What could be, or like how would you make Web3 in itself more inclusive, or generate hyperlocal actions, incentives for local communities. Hyperlocal basically means that you're connecting the infrastructure from like the local or like physical space and making that making that accessible on a larger scale. How to ensure and build an educational model which gives rewards forever. So that's also quite an interesting one, which I think we're slowly kind of drifting towards in Web3 in general. So yeah, let me know if you have any questions in the chat. I'll try to answer those. Otherwise, I'll see you in 3 minutes. Yes, thanks. Cool. Awesome. So we can pretty much carry on just the same way. I think you can also keep playing the music. So for another 3 minutes, let's just do some voting. So take some time and read through the solutions and see what you like the most and what resonates with you the most. So 3 minutes now, and yeah, have a look, enjoy.
Don't worry about a thing, 'cause every little thing gonna be alright. Singing, don't worry about a thing, 'cause every little thing gonna be alright. Rise up this morning, smile with the rising sun. 3 little birds pitch by my doorstep, singing sweet songs of melodies pure and true, saying, "This is my message to you." Singing, don't worry about a thing.
Oh, if your dots are hiding underneath the post-its, you can right-click them and say bring to front, or you copy-paste them rather than moving them. It's a bit weird because they're like on different layers. But yeah, you can always click and then bring to front, and then it sticks.
This morning, smile with the rising sun. 3 little birds pitch by my doorstep, singing sweet songs of melodies pure and true, saying, "This is my message to you." Really don't worry about a thing. Worry about a thing, oh, every little
The dots are not built into Miro, they're just circles.
singing, don't worry
So you can also make them rectangular, or you can probably also use an image, a giraffe or a banana, with that.
about a thing. Every little thing gonna be alright. I won't worry, don't worry about a thing. Every little thing gonna be alright. Don't worry.
Nice. All right, cool. Just gonna stop the timer because it makes a weird noise. Sweet. So now you can see there's a bunch of really cool solutions, and let me just see. There's a few with a lot of votes. I'm just gonna read through a few. So for the soulful connections, Kernel is a great place. I second that. And being transparent and own who you are, sharing the good and bad experiences in your life. It's very nice. Create a safe space for individuals to express their thoughts, emotions, authenticity. Yeah, I think all of these things are pretty cool, and already give like a couple of suggestions on how to actually approach these things. So, I mean, right now, if we were like, you know, a 100 person team, then we could probably like pick out those with the highest votes and just start working on them, refining them a little bit. And the next couple of canvases are basically to get actionable as soon as possible. So now you have these things, but sometimes they're a little bit vague. So for example, like being transparent about who you are. I mean, it's a great suggestion, but you could explore a lot about how to really like build something that creates this transparency, or like that empowers people to be transparent. So there's a lot of potential for exploration and going a lot deeper into these things still. And so the next canvases are basically to decide on these things. So when you're working with your team, you can relatively easily and quickly decide on what to start with and what to move forward with. So let's say we're going to take that safe space example, create a safe space for individuals. And we can move that over to the next canvas and just assume like there is this effort impact scale. There is on a horizontal level, there's the effort. So how much work would that take to do this or to create this solution? And what would be the impact of it compared to maybe other solutions? And so you want to basically take those that have the highest votes and then kind of get them into this board and with your team discuss where that would fit. And so those that are like very high impact and low effort or like lower effort, those are the winners that you can focus on and actually like become proactive about. And I think with like something, for example, with the create a safe space for individuals, you can think about, well, what is that space? What defines a space? Is it an online space or is it a physical space? How do you create how do you provide authenticity? And so all of these things, if you discuss them for like a minute or so, you'll get a sense of like how hard it's going to be or how impactful it's actually going to be. And so you want to do that with a bunch of these ideas. And by when you like went through a few of them, you'll have a good amount of things that you can work on. And then you take those that are in this like pink rectangle that are relatively high effort and relatively low relatively high impact and relatively low effort, and move them over to the next canvas, which is to decide on how to delegate it. Obviously, because we're not like actually working on them right now in this workshop, we're not going to kind of go through these, but this is a stage where you can actually write down what the steps are and what would be the approach to break them down to something that's more easier to start with. So sometimes you'll have like a very, very big task, like this one is quite big, like how do you create a safe space? And like, you know, who would want to take ownership of that particular task? It's like, it's quite a lot to do. But it makes it a lot easier if you discuss like, what's the next smallest thing that you can do where you would have like a little bit of a success feeling. So, you know, create a safe space, let's say, you know, set up Gather, which is a pretty cool like safe space for individuals to express their thoughts. So that'll be like step one. Then step two, like, I don't know, invite people. Or step three, like create some guidelines or some examples of how these social interactions should work. So break them down into something that becomes tangible and very doable and that people can kind of relate to. And then you basically just assign someone who's responsible of that work and you can follow through with that. And so by the end of this session, and you know, like now you can see this took us like, I don't know what, half an hour, maybe 40 minutes or so, to just like go through all of the things that are possible, all of the challenges into something that could be actually tangible solutions. And now we can even go to the stage where, I mean, it's going to take a couple of more minutes to do it, but it's going to come to a stage where you can really like decide on who is going to do what. I also added another canvas for like doing some research. Obviously these workshops you can do with a lot of different ways. I'm just going to share my screen real quick and show you what that looks like for like other projects. So you can create these workshop examples for a lot of things. So this is like an example for workshops we do at Deep Work for designing actual prototypes. So you would go through like the how might we's we did in the beginning. You can see these categories here. We do the same to create a long-term goal, some specific challenges. We sketch out user journeys in exactly the same way and do some research. So, you know, drop screenshots, examples for solutions that you can come up with, and then go all the way into the storyboard. You can check out the examples and the Miro boards for a lot of different projects on our website. So these are design case studies. I'm just going to drop that into the chat. So feel free to get inspired, steal the Figma files and Miro boards, explore them. Try to find whatever suits your challenges. You can just click on those and there are the Miro boards and the Figma files and everything. This was already overrun. I know, I'm really sorry, but it was a pleasure. I'll stop here. So if you have any other questions, feel free to reach out to me in Slack. So thank you so much and hope to chat to you soon.
Thank you, Andrej. It's wonderful. That Miro board is a treasure chest, so please save it down. We'll also put it in, well, the WanderWeek channel. We are at time, so I just want to quickly take us to the last slide. We're starting from here. The WanderWeek channel is a place to say hello. The instruction manual has the 3 steps to complete your sign up. It's also obviously in these slides. The Gaming Guild begins now for those who want to spend some time with Austin Griffith and maybe spend some time on prototyping. And then we also are going to pop into the Gather for anyone who wants to just kind of hang out, share ideas, and Sid is leading that portion of the show. So this is the Gather Town, the Gaming Guild you should already have on your calendar if you joined. So you are welcome for either of those. We understand if you have to go. Welcome to WanderWeek. And we'll see you at some of the next sessions and are excited to explore artifacts with all of you. Thank you, Shiloh. Thank you, Jessica. Bye, Sophie. Bye.
Thank you so much. It's great.
Thank you, Marlon.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Always some music to end the show. If anyone has any questions for me, let me know. Otherwise, we'll see you soon. Gathering here. I see a raised hand from Susie. Susie, what's up?
Hey, question for you. So I just want to make sure I'm understanding everything. So the adventure, so my understanding is like, if you're doing the build track, you need to fill out an adventure. If you're doing the learn track, you do not. Is that accurate?
I think that's accurate. Yeah, you could
Okay.
fill out an adventure that describes your learning journey if you wanted to, but most of them will be more build oriented.
Okay, so so for instance, like I'm doing more of the learn track. However, I want to be building with people.
Yeah.
And so like I'm literally using WanderWeek to wander and to build with. Do I need to be filling out a okay.
So in that
I didn't
case,
think so, but
you do not. But one thing that I would encourage would be the ones that are there, the adventures that are there who say, yes, I'm attending WanderWeek, that particular kind of like Notion tag, that
Okay.
will give you a good sense of, okay, these are the people that are here, and these might be the people I might ping to see if I can help or participate in their artifact creation this week. And I think that's perfect. There are people, I remember Ben Lakoff from Genesis Block, he was like, I don't have my own adventure, but I'm going to pick 4 that are exciting to me, and I'm going to tell them that I can be a resource, I can be a sounding board, I can do a mural session with them. And that was like how he participated through a large part of the Kernel block, actually. So yeah.
oh, awesome, perfect. All right, thank you, appreciate it.
Of course. Thanks, Susie. Matthew, I'm going to look into it. Let's see. Current data. I'll do this on my own time, I think. But yeah, sounds good. I think got some late folks in here. Any other questions, thoughts before I close out the room?
Hey, yeah, I just had a quick question. I had a really busy work week last week, so didn't really have the time to properly catch up with all the guides and adventures and whatnot. Would the best way to catch up be actually reaching out to the guides and kind of having an update with them?
I think so. I think so, Jay, because the guide can be kind of like your one-on-one conversation space to make sure that the specifics of what you're hoping to explore in Kernel can be explored in that kind of one-on-one setting. But if there are some like specific things you want to catch up on, I'm happy to kind of help. The week 1 email did try to outline, okay, these are kind of the things that if you do these 3 things, you're on track. So that also could help as well.
All right, fantastic. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you. Right. See you wonderful people soon. Thank you all.